What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Rams Brothers. I'm your host, Dean, and I'm joined, as always, by my brother and the other great host of this show, Nick. And Nick, football's back. Rams-Lions wildcard rematch is right around the corner. But first and most importantly, how are you, my good brother?
Woke up this morning because we're on a time difference. Dean sent a text message to our fantasy football group that said, it's the football season eve. And that just got me right at the energy that I am just at right now to be talking about the Rams and football. I never thought I would be like this, but this is who I am now.
You're not only talking about Rams football, though. You're talking about a wild card rematch. You're talking about a newborn rivalry between the Detroit Lions. So I think that's where a lot of the excitement comes from. Aside of the fact that, a lot of things have happened in the offseason, right? You lost Aaron Donald, you lost Raheem Morris, you traded away Ernest Jones. So there's been a lot of drama, plus the drafts and everything in between. So that's why we're here for you guys. We talk about all of this stuff. We've had you covered all offseason. We've had you covered all throughout the preseason. So make sure to like and subscribe. All great content coming your guys' way. Everything in relation to game previews, game recaps. We're going to do some film study this year. So I want to remind everybody too. Ram it. And also, this episode is brought to you guys by Autograph. We want you guys to keep scanning the QR code, download the Autograph app, punch in our referral code. It's B1B3F930. Autograph is doing a lot of incredible new things. So they just released with us today that Autograph is coming out of beta. So they've added a ton of teams. They've added college teams. They've added new rewards. The reward structure is different. So make sure to keep consuming Rams content. All you really have to do is keep being a Rams fan. You just have to keep consuming Rams content across all the top Rams content creators. You get rewards for consuming those podcasts, for the videos, for the articles that you guys read. So make sure to punch in our referral code. It's down at the bottom of the screen, B1B3F930, and download the Autograph app. All right, Nick, let's do it. Let's talk about the Rams and the Lions.
Let's do it.
It's done.
Let me just say one more thing about Autograph. This
Please.
is not going to be the only time that I talk about the Panthers, but I know that they are working on getting the NFL in there, which I'm a big fan of, because right now it's just like all of hockey as opposed to all of your teams.
Florida Panthers. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? Florida Panthers, Rams Lions week. What the hell are you talking about?
I'm just excited. I'm just excited with our Autograph. They rule. I love it. I'm working up, getting ready for to get tickets for a game through the app. So it's just really exciting. It's cool stuff.
Good stuff. So Rams, Lions. Let's start with the Lions, right? Because overall, the Lions have the fourth best odds to win the Super Bowl at plus 1,200, and they have the second best odds to win the conference behind the San Francisco 49ers at plus 550. Their over-under win total is at 10.5. I think Super Bowl aspirations are very, very real for this team. We know what happened last season, the Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford rematch. It's the second game that they ended up playing. They're now 1-1 head-to-head. But the Lions have Super Bowl aspirations because they're a high-powered offense, right? They're one of the top teams in terms of offenses, in terms of being able to generate explosives as of last year. They have, really, I think the defense has been improved across the board. They were third in yards and fifth in points per game last year. They have tons of continuity on the coaching staff, which I feel like never happens after that kind of offensive success and an NFC Championship appearance. And we know that Brad Holmes knows how to build winners. But the controversy that comes along with the Lions is the Matthew Stafford conversation. You see Lions fans, they're all over social media. They want to talk about booing Matthew Stafford. They want to talk about booing Kelly Stafford and all the kids. And this is the sentiment from Lions Nation as of right now. At Abe Abbas 2 said this year Goff is going to do something that Matthew Stafford never did. He's going to win a Super Bowl with the Detroit Lions. So, Nick, instant reactions to just the overall status of the Rams Lions, the rivalry, and what you're getting from the fans so far.
Pretty remarkable to have a team that has never won a NFC Championship like recently and never won a Super Bowl have like the fourth best Super Bowl odds. But that's really a testament to what they built there. I mean, they're talking about how players want to play in Detroit. I've never seen a turnaround where you have Ben Johnson's the number one wannabe hired guy, their offensive coordinator. and it's like, I want to stick around. I want to be on this team. I want to be a part of something special here. And, it's admirable. Especially when all of my life the Lions have been garbage. To see them come from the ashes and rise like the Phoenix has been one of the greater joys I've had just as a football fan outside of the Rams, especially you're going to attach Goff to that, who I was a big fan of. Seeing him rise and become the veteran presence like Aaron Donald talked about this week has been great. That being said, there is 100% chance that the Rams go in there and put up an astronomical fight, because if you go down it list by list of the most important positions on the team, okay, let's just say two. Let's just say the two most important positions on the team, and one of them is the position as coach. You have the better coach and you have the better quarterback. And anytime you have that combination going into a game, you have to feel really good, just period.
I totally agree. And the Rams, conversely, are 6-1 in openers under Sean McVay. I think they have Super Bowl aspirations of their own, too. I think a lot of fans are looking at a banged-up offensive line. They're looking at a defense that's missing Aaron Donald. They're looking at a vacancy at defensive coordinator that was internally filled by Chris Shula. They're looking at a certain linebacker that was traded as reasons why they can't be Super Bowl contenders. But I feel like anytime, Nick, to your point, they have Sean McVay on the sidelines, they have Les Snead in the front office, and they have Matthew Stafford under center, their chances are as good as anyone. So, and another thing that came out of Rams camp as of recent was a reminder from NFL Plus that the Rams averaged 6.8 yards per play when Matthew Stafford, Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp were on the field last year. That was the first in the NFL. So you talk about explosive plays. Lions were second in explosive plays. The Rams, towards the end of the season, when everybody was healthy, were just as explosive. So you got two of the top offenses in the entire league going head-to-head with one of the better coaches versus, a top three coach in Sean McVay. Ton of skill power offensively. And I want to jump into the Lions offense because we know what you're getting out of Jared Goff. And I think that what you see with him, he thrives with an innovative, ahead-of-the-curve play caller, right? You saw it with Sean McVay. Ben Johnson is very similar to Sean McVay in that he's very, very innovative. You got to stay ahead of the curve. Every single year is different, but he's got Dan Campbell's sticky, wacky fingerprints overlaid on everything, which makes it a hell of a lot more fun to watch and to be able to see Goff progress this way. But he makes one play look like this play. He makes one play look like that play. He uses a strong running game to be able to create familiar looks pre-snap and post-snap, create easy passing opportunities for Jared Goff. It's a foundational system that Jared Goff grew up in, which I feel like is why the transition made so much sense from being able to trade Matthew Stafford to Los Angeles, Jared Goff to Detroit, and see him thrive under Ben Johnson. Like, you'll see them run outside zone with a fullback leading. Like, sometimes that's never something you saw in Sean McVay's offense, but it's wacky enough and appropriate enough to fit a Dan Campbell-led system. You'll see 11 jumbo. You'll see 6 offensive line with 3 wide receivers. You'll see Penei Sewell as a tight end. Like, they do things that are wacky, are different, but have been a mainstay of this league in effort to stay ahead of the curve. And that's where Ben Johnson and Jared Goff have gotten all the credit.
Yeah. What the Rams didn't do with Jared Goff, the Lions have been able to do. They had patience. They made a system around him so that he can prosper and become, his top echelon, his peak of where he can get to. And the Rams didn't have time to sit around and wait for him to get there. And he had to sit through, a lot of 2 really crummy seasons in Detroit to really learn and get the, pardon my French, shit kicked out of him to finally become, who he really is. And to watch that growth has been great. I still believe, though, even though he's gotten his ass kicked and Donald didn't really get a chance to kick his ass when we played him on our last game, I think the key to winning this game is you have to attack Jared and you have to blitz him and you have to get him out of his, you have to be going in and change your looks on defense. We know who he is. And that's not something that they wanted to exploit in the playoff game that ended our season last year, which was just really shocking.
I think they tried to, but I am going to disagree on one point that you made just in relation to catering the system around Jared Goff, because I remember in 19 and 20, after they gave him the extension, they ran so much play action. They had him under center. They tried to give him these easy pre and post snap looks. but it's the way that they've, I think, innovated. They've also been able to craft the offense around the personnel that they brought into the building. So top picks on the offensive line, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. They used to have Josh Reynolds, another name that was Jared Goff's security blanket. But when you look at just in totality, what you're looking at from year over year in terms of changes, their only real change up front was losing Jonah Jackson. And we know where Jonah Jackson is right now. They added 34-year-old Kevin Zeitler to play right guard, who played 950 snaps in each of the last 9 seasons. They moved Graham Glasnow over to left guard, who played left guard for his first 2 seasons, and they kept Frank Ragnow in the middle. And they still have these massive bookends in terms of offensive tackles. So what, 3 first-round picks up front protecting Jared Goff? I mean, it's essentially as good as you can build it. And you know what? This is something too. I was looking back at our previous script in the last episode that we recorded about the Lions. I identified Jonah Jackson as a weak spot on their offensive line last year. I thought Jonah Jackson versus Aaron Donald is a pressure opportunity. Yeah, I feel like Jonah Jackson was one of the better left guards in the league. But like to your mention, Nick, the name of the game is getting pressure on the quarterback, especially up front. And if you can't do that against Jared Goff, he's going to be able to sit back there, pick you apart, watch the offense progress, go through his progressions, and hit the open player. So, those are just some little details in terms of like, okay, maybe it's not absolutely perfectly built, but it may even be a step up to what it was in 18 with Jared Goff.
Yeah, no, 100%. He's playing his best football now, I think, on that.
And you combine it with that too. You're right.
Yeah, he's playing his best football now. And this was always the thing with him. If he had a great run game, then the defense can't 100% just exploit his weaknesses. And that's exactly what he has right now. He has some of the best backs in the league. Gibbs and Montgomery, just two-headed monster. Montgomery finished last year with more rushing touchdowns than Gibbs. But they're saying this is going to be Gibbs' breakout year. I drafted him as my first pick in fantasy. And then you have Sam Laporta, who had one of the best rookie campaigns amongst any tight end in NFL history. So that's his Higbee. That's his bread and butter. That's who he lived with in camp his first season. It's very crucial that they have all of their pieces right now. You're getting them probably not at the best point of the season because, it's a home game. They're Super Bowl aspirations. They want to come out hot. So it is going to be scary because you look at our defense and you're going to subtract the greatest defensive player ever, and you're going to expect to stop this defense. And, oh, by the way, you don't have Raheem Morris anymore, who was able to hold them on the back end of that playoff game to, 3 points total? And
in the second half. Yeah,
second half.
Yeah, the second half adjustments.
I cannot believe this is just for Dean. I apologize, everybody. My dad always does oh, by the way, and it drives me nuts. And I just caught myself doing it there. And I'm sorry. It's just
no, you were on a roll. You were making a good point. I think we're going to get into some of the keys of this game too. But I think just real quick before we transition over to the Lions defense, I think last year their leading receivers were Amon-Ra, Josh Reynolds, and Khalif Raymond. We already talked about Josh Reynolds' and security blanket. He had 64 targets and over 600 yards last year. He's now with Bo Nix in Denver. And Jamison Williams is expected to fill the void in a huge way. And I think a lot of their offensive efficiency is dependent on Jamison Williams being the guy on the outside next to Amon-Ra. But he only played in 12 games last year. But we mentioned they were second in explosive plays, but they're very much dependent on those two guys and also Khalif Raymond being their core 3 in terms of receivers alongside of Laporta and Gibbs. But in terms of the defense, what I think is really interesting, you got Aiden Hutchinson. Right. Marcus Davenport was a new face that they added. I think backup tackles in this game make it that much more worrisome because you got a new face coming around the edge. You got Aiden Hutchinson, who's an all-pro. You're going to be with Joe Noteboom on the left side. We don't know if Rob Havenstein is going to be able to go yet. Hopefully he is. We've seen signs of progress in practice. But all you're going to be able to do in terms of being able to negate some of that stuff is stuff that the Rams didn't do last year. So heavier doses of 12 personnel. So you got to take a receiver off the field. You add a tight end. You got to look at things like Kyron and Corum with extra responsibilities in pass pro. And I think it's so funny how teams value linebackers. Alex Anzalone was a former 3rd-round pick, and Jack Campbell was the 18th pick of the draft. And we're rolling out 2 undrafted players after trading away the player that broke the record last year for most tackles in a single season. You got Christian Roseboom and Buzz Lightyear. That's how difficult it is, right? When it comes to like evaluating this defense and claiming that they have Super Bowl aspirations, when you feel like the linebacker core is that undervalued in comparison to other teams who are Super Bowl caliber players, or teams rather. So
just sidebar for a second here, Dean. So like you're saying we have Super Bowl aspirations, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
What does a successful season then look like to you? Is it successful only if they win the Super Bowl, or is
I don't necessarily think so. I think if you get to an NFC championship, I think you consider the season successful. Even if you get to the divisional round, season is successful. You win the division, season is considered successful. And we've talked about this in previous episodes too. Like an NFC championship berth, I think they lost in the wild card round to the Atlanta Falcons in 2017. The following year, they went to the Super Bowl and lost the Super Bowl. So those are the year-over-year progressions you expect to make. And as I mentioned, anytime you got Stafford under center, you got Kyron, you got Puka, you got Cooper Kupp, you got Blake Corum. I think Colby Parkinson is another really undervalued player. You pair him with Davis Allen and tall personnel, you got one of the better blocking tight ends alongside of one of the better pass-catching tight ends. And then even you mix in Hunter Long. I think you got plenty of depth up front to be able to negate some of the inefficiencies up front on the offensive line. God bless you, Nick. So I think in relation to the defense, their secondary, I think, is so interesting. And Aaron Glenn had talked about this in recent interviews, right? Because they got 3 new cornerbacks. It's Terrion Arnold, Carlton Davis, and Amrik Robertson in the slot. Brian Branch and Dirty Kirby Joseph are right behind him. So Dirty Kirby is probably going to have another shot at Colby Parkinson's knee. And Matthew Stafford's probably going to have to run up in his face and tell him to get the hell out of here. But this defense in particular, the secondary, was a liability all over the field last season. So you look at the 3 new faces, 6th most in the NFL in terms of passing yards allowed per game. In weeks 10 through 18, the Lions allowed a league high of 2,444 passing yards. And it coincided with a decision by defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn to switch from a zone-heavy scheme to his preferred style of man coverage with a higher blitz rate. So you're going to see a higher blitz rate. You're going to see a higher percentage of man coverage. And they added personnel this offseason to be able to fit that style of defense. So their expectations are sky high. But if I were Matthew Stafford, I'd be expecting heavier doses of man coverage. I'd be excited over heavier doses of man coverage, which is easier to identify pre and post snap, and a secondary that hasn't proved itself yet.
Definitely, you're going to need to exploit the secondary if you're trying to win this game. That's going to be, I think, number 1. That has to be what they're going to do. Number 2, they're going to have to look at their running back room, and they're going to have to say, which one of you is going to put up the most fight when somebody is just rushing at your face? Because I think they're going to bring the blitz a lot, especially when they're, they have the information that that our center is going to be, not our expected center for the whole season. So we're trying something out. So there's going, you're hoping that what we have and, what we're tinkering with on the offensive line can be sustainable and can hold up, because you're going to need to give Stafford time to throw the ball, because exploiting that secondary, I agree, is the key, Nick's key to victory.
It's so interesting with Jonah Jackson, right? Because he's claiming that center is his most natural position after playing it in college, but he's played left guard his entire career with the Detroit Lions. So like to claim that 2 weeks before the season starts, he's talking about how McVay has tons of confidence in him in that position. McVay has touted that he has plenty of confidence in Jonah Jackson. You move Steve Avila back to his natural position of left guard. So, I mean, that's where some of the pressure is, being able to identify pressures up front. Maybe you give the nod to a more experienced veteran who can call out pressures, who can see line stunts, who can see what the second level of the defense is doing pre-snap, if they're shifting around, any kind of identity leverage that you have. This is a guy that's going against his former team, that understands the defensive coordinator, that has practiced against this team. So you may have an advantage in terms of the veteran Jonah Jackson playing center and being able to identify things before they happen, because he has the experience against his former team and knows the defensive coordinator. So I think that's something that's really important. It's definitely something to kind of hang your hats on, Rams fans, as you're just kind of thinking through this. Like, Steve Avila hasn't played this position yet professionally, Jonah Jackson's been in the league going into year 6. He's healthy. So he wasn't healthy a few weeks ago. Maybe that's why they didn't do the transition sooner. But Steve Avila has the versatility to be able to go back and forth. So I got 3 keys for you. We already heard one of Nick's keys, but Dean's keys are coming up. We love it. We're back.
But enough.
So the first key, offensively, you got to start fast. Because we talked about this in some capacity, converting in the red zone, starting fast, and being aggressive on 4th down. The Rams never had a lead in the wild card game against the Detroit Lions. They were down 14-3 after the first quarter. They were down 21-17 at halftime. They were down 24-20 at the end of the third quarter. And they were 0-3 in the red zone the last time that they saw each other. So the defense was on its heels. They never really had an opportunity to pin their ears back and get after Jared Goff and be disruptive. We know that's when teams like to rush the passer, is when they have a lead. They like to be able to, take a member of the secondary off the field, bring an additional blitzer. So, I mean, that's kind of what you're looking at. I think that's the first key in terms of offensively starting fast, converting in the red zone, and being able to convert on 4th down. Plus, you have a little bit of, an unknown at kicker as of right now. Until
exploit using what the Lions are good at on 4th down and going for it and being gutsy 100%. They are going to have to be able to do that. Yes.
Yeah. And, heavier personnel groupings I already talked about. And we talked about Jonah Jackson switching to center and Steve Avila back to left guard and the 2 left and right tackles. Hopefully Havenstein's ready to go. One of the better pass blocking tackles in football. And he'll have another big responsibility against Aiden Hutchinson again, like he did in the wildcard round. The next one is winning the battle in the trenches. Jared Verse and Byron Young coming around the edge against 2 of the better tackles in football is a heavyweight fight. Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell versus Jared Verse and Byron Young. Sign me up for that head-to-head matchup any day of the week. Lions interior offensive line is strong. We talked about Graham Glasnow at left guard, Frank Ragnow at the middle. We talked about Kevin Zeitler, the new signing. But I think they need to be creative in terms of how they're generating pressures and being able to rattle Jared Goff, which is something that, like you mentioned, Nick, in I don't know, 10 minutes ago or so, they didn't necessarily have the opportunities to be able to do so consistently. So, or maybe even personnel.
Credit to him in that game. Like, everybody was expecting him to throw a pick. Like every Rams fan was like, Jared's going to throw us one. And he was really did a great job. But yeah, I mean, you're right. You have to exploit his weaknesses, which as Rams fans, we know probably better than anybody else.
Yeah. And Jared Goff is coming off of the new contract the Lions just gave him. I think the only time, and Rams fans, correct me if I'm wrong, that the Rams lost the opener, it wasn't 2019, or was it 2020?
No, it was post Super Bowl. It was against the Bills where we kind of got manhandled
in 22.
Yeah,
which was Matthew Stafford. Okay, because I was trying to figure out what that one loss was for Sean McVay in the opener, and it was against the Bills and Stafford. So yeah, I think that's a great point. And Jared Goff too. He was 9-7 in his first year coming off the contract, and then he was 10-6 the next year in 2020. So definitely something to keep in mind in terms of coming off of a big deal. A lot of these players they've kept internally, and they're expected to make this team be and not only an NFC champion but a Super Bowl champion. And the third key, special teams, no mistakes. No mistakes. There were no turnovers in that wild card game. Not by the Lions, not by the Rams, not by either special teams unit. Play a clean game. Kick the banana ball, Ethan Evans, if you want. Make some kicks. Joshua Carty, do whatever you got to do, but also be aggressive on 4th down and don't even allow the special teams to make any mistakes.
Yeah, I remember I coined the nickname Gentle Josh for Josh the Giant, and Jordan was kind of, when we had her on the pod, was a little taken back by it. Like, what does that mean? And, if you don't want to be Gentle Josh, then earn a better nickname is all I have to say.
Make your kicks.
Make your kicks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, so everybody remembers how this game went, right? So 24-23, it was as close as it could have possibly been. There was a controversy on Puka Nacua late in the game in terms of pass interference. The Rams had an opportunity to potentially win the game late, but weren't able to execute on 4th down. Puka Nacua broke the rookie record for most receiving yards in a postseason game. I just think it's going to be a ton of fun. You got a head-to-head heavyweight matchup, Sunday Night Football. It's going to be a blast. And now, Nick, I think I'm officially ready for Nick's picks, the very first of the season. One more time. Let's go. Do we have a theme song?
Yeah, we made it. You know, we made it, everybody. We're here. It's Nick's Picks. Finally, the 2024 season's Nick's Picks. And I talked to Autograph. I talked to our producers. They did green light. We got a green light on the theme songs this year. So, Dean, if you want to play the theme song for the start of this season, we'll get it going.
Now the story of a wealthy gambler who lost everything, who had no choice but to make his brother listen to his theme songs. This is Nick's Picks.
Perfect.
Yeah. A little Arrested Development for
now
you,
the
Joe.
Story of a
Let it go. Let it run.
No, producer, kind of fire this damn producer, dude. He's killing it.
It's Gentle Josh. He's the producer.
Yeah. So I thought when you were talking about Autograph, you were talking about the Panthers. I thought, you do have the Panthers in here. Never mind. We get double Panthers action.
Double Panthers action. Yeah. Don't worry.
All right. Let's do it. I'm ready for
Let's dive in. We're going to start. You know it's Nick's Picks when you're starting off with a terrible matchup. Vikings at Giants. But you know what? It's just football, and that should be enough. And you know what? I can't wait to watch it. Does anyone else feel like the Vikings might have some positive karma behind them to start the season? I mean, their offseason was essentially written by Lemony Snicket's, just a true series of unfortunate events in Minnesota here, who seemingly can do no wrong. If the team's bad, it's not really their fault. You know, it's like they just got dealt such a bad hand. But I'm just going to make a gut decision here. You have two coaches who both are regarded as like really great, O'Connell and Dayball. I think Darnold and Dimes are essentially the same quarterback anyway, so it's going to come down to that coaching battle. And 10 times out of 10, I'm going to take O'Connell there. You know, I know Dayball has the coach of the year under his belt, but like, what has he done since? He won one playoff game against the Vikings. Vikings money line is the first official Knicks picks of the season. Since the spread is 1.5, I also like the over 42. Give me Vikings to win the shootout 30-28.
Huh, okay. I don't know about that many points in that stinker of a game, but
well, I mean, that's
opening week. You don't know what you don't know yet. So yeah, sure.
I'm zagging everybody else because it seems like under 42 seems like a no-brainer. So when it's a no-brainer, that's when it gets too easy. Let's follow up Daniel Jones versus Sam Darnold with Derek Carr versus Bryce Young.
God, you picked the two worst games on the.
Panthers at Saints. Last year, I had an alternate win-loss total on the Saints because they didn't hit their official win-loss total. They went under. But luckily, I bought an extra game. It was torturous to watch them all season. It barely hit. Last game of the season, they came through. They barely beat the Panthers. And I had to watch them all year, and it sucked. It sucked eggs. The city doesn't like Derek Carr. Neither do I. I'm so off on the Saints. I'm telling the world to take the Panthers week 1. The Cats, baby. Florida to Carolina. Spread is +4. That's a fantastic number right there. I like the Panthers they could come out and win this game outright, which is really exciting for them to win a divisional game, start their season, kind of show the world that they're not going to be this easy out. From their perspective, last season was essentially a wash. They brought in a quarterback whisperer head coach. They can see what they actually have in Bryce, who could be something special. He was the first overall pick. And they can go out there and they can win some games and be scrappy. Call me crazy. I have Panthers over 5.5 wins this season. Yep, I swapped out the Saints. I'm going to the South for some reason, and I'm taking Panthers over on wins. That is not an official Knicks pick. I don't even recommend you do that. It's just something I did. But give me the Cats outright, 21-18 win. But the official pick is Cats +4, just in case they don't outright win.
Okay. All right. I thought you had 21-9.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, I thought you said 20.
That's my score prediction, but the official pick. Yeah. Come on.
Gotcha.
We do this all the time.
We're a little rusty on Knicks picks. Blame the producer. It's all good. It's my fault.
Yeah. All right. We're almost there. Chiefs at Ravens. Dean, I'm going to need you to stall for a second because I realized my computer is not plugged in. All right. We're plug-inable, so now we're back. I guess I just stalled. Chiefs at Ravens. Saving some good football for last. what I keep coming back to here is the Ravens in the regular season. They are truly just an unstoppable force every year until January. Then they kind of get pushed aside and they're not Ravens anymore. They're Pigeons. But last time I checked, it's September. And you know who loves the song Wake Me Up When September Ends by Green Day? It's the Chiefs. Sure, they're Super Bowl champs, but they said it themselves, these early games are not important to them. They can live the Patriot life. They can coast in an easy division, take the title, and make it to the Super Bowl, no problem. Away games, not a problem. Whereas the Ravens, they got to see red in their eyes right now. The Chiefs are the team that knocked them off last year. And wow, it's written in here. And oh, by the way, they added Derrick Henry, a king amongst children, because he's old. No, but for real, I do not see Henry adding that much to the team overall. But at this point, I think his legs can be fresher than we're going to see for the rest of the season. They can't be any fresher, a la Chandler Bing. So if there is a game where he'll help us, I think it's this one. Give me the Ravens by the extra point, just in case the religioso kicker wants to continue to be great, even though he's a strange man in real life. 24-20. I think the Ravens do win, but we're not sweating it because we bought the extra half point. And we're going to run it back real fast for you guys. Ravens plus 3.5. Vikings money line. Over 42.5 in the Viking game. Cats plus 4. And then my quick pick. Give me some LSD Jets plus 4.5 on Monday night against the San Francisco 49ers. We haven't seen what the Jets look like at all. And I'm just going to run with it.
Quick pick is the Jets plus 4.5. The Jets are 4.5-point underdogs.
I know, right? Against San Francisco. It's in San Fran. I guess that's why.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I'm just going to lock in my official pick as of right now. Rams beat the Lions outright.
Love it. Dean's locks are off to a shaky start. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Download Autograph. We love you. We're going to be here all season. We're going to be doing videos and stuff. Like and subscribe. We appreciate you so much. And as always, go Rams.
Go Rams. Talk to you guys soon.